It's refreshment time, folks.
I have to return some videotapes.
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Do you like scary movies, Sydney?
You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. Don't need a TV.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
Over 1,600 titles, each for rent at just $2 the first night, and only...
Finish it.
I don't watch TV.
Yeah, but you are aware that there's an invention called television, and on this invention they show shows, right?
Tonight on 6 Ed World.
Okay, I want channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and the Weather Channel.
Welcome to the Frog Brothers Podcast with your hosts, Justin and Alec.
Hello, and welcome to episode 33 of the Frog Brothers Podcast. I'm your resident asshole, Justin, and with me, as always, is my asshole brother, Alec, and our shithead producer, Nick, who's just recently started joining the sessions.
Ew.
Yeah, so.
Let the crowd know how much you're here, Dickless.
This is where you say that's original.
How much I'm here?
He's not even listening.
That's original.
He didn't say that.
Yeah, he did. He called you dickless.
Oh, sorry.
I said let everyone know you're here, Dickless.
That's original.
There you go.
Exactly.
Catchphrase.
As he sneaks closer to me.
You gonna call me Nickelodeon now?
No.
Nick at night?
Call you Dick at night.
Wait, you don't have underpants that say Nick at night?
Underpants.
That's a good idea.
My name was Nick. That's what I would do. I'd wear those things around all the
I
time.
know you do that.
But like, you know what time it is? It's time for Nick at night.
Nick.
Yeah.
So it's been one hell of a week.
Oh yeah. So it's funny how
things work out, isn't it?
it's funny. It is. So we only had to trade Alex Trebek for Biden to win the presidency, which I don't know if that's a fair trade or not yet, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
Sean Connery's overrated and was kind of a scumbag, so, I mean, he's fun in some movies, but that doesn't make him a saint, so.
Yeah, definitely. It's been pretty cool, though, to just know that the used condom rolled in Cheeto dust is going to be gone soon.
Yes, I'm so glad we're finally changing America's diaper, because that thing was loaded.
Mm-hmm. People were ignoring the shit out of that thing.
But it's funny how Republicans and the far right wing is really, 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 really into compassion and everything right now.
Yeah.
And you're like, you guys didn't have that a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Chappelle hosted Saturday Night Live on Saturday, of course, and had some pretty good insight into the whole facts of the matter.
What time do they film that?
Saturday Night Live? I don't know. Do I fucking work on the show?
They film it Saturday night.
Live?
Live before a studio audience, Dick knows.
There was actually an article I did read about the costume designers getting the outfit to replicate Kamala Harris's outfit, like an hour and a half after she was broadcast wearing it.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they go for a good amount of
pretty
detail on there. The soft opening is on there is all right. The only thing I just kind of think is I don't necessarily love Jim Carrey as Biden, so I'm hoping they'll do somebody else. Go back to...
Yeah, I really liked Jason Sudeikis as Biden.
I think he would be good to bring him back instead of Jim Carrey, but...
I mean, I like Jim Carrey too, and it was pretty funny when he went, "Hello, there."
Yeah, but he feels just like Fire Marshal Bill as Biden to me.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And it's just like,
Sorry, exactly.
I don't know if they'll get Jim Carrey every week for the next 4 years.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm hoping they'll do somebody else because of that.
Baldwin, you know.
Eric Baldwin. The film.
I mean, that's true, but I think Alec Baldwin lives in New York.
Yeah, that's
so
what I'm saying.
I don't think Jim Carrey does. But flying Jim Carrey out once a week, I mean, if he's just doing one bit, you know, it's one thing.
Maybe.
It was interesting to see them back in the studio again, too, doing actually in front of a live audience and everything. You can tell the audience size is smaller. And I love how Chappelle called out Lorne Michaels. He's like, hey, this is a comedy show. Let me do comedy.
Yeah.
You know, because the audience at Saturday Night Live is not necessarily the typical Dave Chappelle fan base, right? So you're going to have people that didn't, I was like, oh, this isn't like a Chappelle stand-up because everyone's there because they love Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle can get away with saying some shit, too, because it's like, you can tell when the way he laughs about it and talks about it, he's like, that's a punchline, clearly. You know what I mean?
Oh,
he's being funny, and he's not just saying shit like to be offensive or shocking. He could be, but he's not.
And he still does that to some degree, right? He still says a lot of shit most other people have shied away from. What the fuck are you laughing at, Nick?
Laugh.
I thought you were sniffing his hair.
He's like looking at his phone all intently, like, what are you doing? Do you need a picture of a butthole or something? Here, I can show you your mom's. I think she sent me a picture on Instagram.
My mom has an OnlyFans.
Well, she guessed it on my OnlyFans.
I know. I was gonna say we all teamed up on that one.
Yeah, I had a lot of guests on that. But so there's a thing that you mentioned on one of the podcasts recently about not particularly caring for. Not saying you said they were bad, but you said you didn't really care for the Indiana Jones movies. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, they're okay.
When was the last time you watched them?
Shocking.
Like the original trilogy without Kingdom. I mean, Kingdom's really not as bad as people say, but
no, and there's things I really like about that because I like the alien aspect of that, and the time frame the movie is shot in like really fit well with that whole alien conspiracy and the crystal skulls, right?
Yeah,
that's fine.
But let's talk Raiders of the Lost Ark for just a second. When was the last time you watched it? Sat down and watched it full attention?
I watched some of those on demand a couple of years ago. So, and then before that, the last time was probably when the DVD set came out finally, all as one. I sat down and watched them all then.
I haven't watched, this week I've watched Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom.
Okay.
And my opinions of them have increased
Temple of Doom.
The older as I get. Temple of the Doom is often regarded as one of the worst ones, too.
Yes, and that's my favorite.
But I like the darker and weirder tones that are in it. I like seeing, even the first one. Yeah, the whole Kali Ma bit. That's what I was almost going to do earlier on Justin, but then I was like, I need to bring this whole Indiana Jones thing up, because...
Oh, I would know what you're doing if you're doing that. That's like an amazing scene, right?
But like, Raiders of the Lost Ark holds your attention a little more. And all of those movies obviously have some weird shit going on outside of accepted reality.
I always thought that...
But like the fucking skull of the Nazis melting and shit from the Ark.
Isn't Aliens more plausible than some of the other movies? Really?
I mean,
pretty
much.
Mean crystals? Yeah. Well, it all depends. I mean, it's just based on... There's certain things based on folklore and that, and it's a good blend of reality versus not reality, right? And I appreciate that about those. I guess for me, it's just that people regard those and, like hold those so high up in their movie like lists. And I'm like, yeah, it's Spielberg, it's George Lucas. They're fun, but to me at the same time, it's like, and it's not that Harrison Ford's bad in it. It's just that it's typical asshole Harrison Ford, where you're just like, I just feel like he's being himself in those movies where he's kind of a dickhead all the time, because you hear stories about how much of a dickhead he is in life and like disregards fans and stuff like that. And I just feel like I feel like he's being himself in those movies a lot of the time.
Hot take.
I don't feel like that's acting necessarily.
Well, I'm going to have to find somebody else to watch these movies with, then, you fucking terrible human.
I'll watch them. Nick's over here waving his hand just because he wants to sit under the table.
Those movies, my opinion has just increased with age. As a kid, I kind of they couldn't hold my attention too much other than the action sequences,
You have to watch Temple of Doom first, though.
Well, technically, in if you want to talk about it that way, but I watched it in production order because I feel okay doing that.
Also.
Very briefly, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, anyway. I was just going to say, those are great movies, and you need to rewatch them, I think. I haven't watched Last Crusade yet, so I can't say much for that yet.
By no means am I saying they're bad movies.
You mean yet as in your rewatch?
I just don't see... They're not as highly regarded in my film repertoire as they are for other people, right?
But Jaws You saw Jaws as a kid, but you never thought that was way up there until later in life, did you either?
I always liked Jaws as a kid.
But you weren't like, Jaws is the fucking shit. I think that's the way... I never cared much for Jaws. I mean, I thought it was cool and shit when I was a kid, but like when you watch a movie like that as an adult, it's so different. It's still like the first time you watched Ghostbusters as an adult, like when you have an adult mindset. Maybe you're in your teens or something, but...
Yeah, I could see that, where you're coming from with that.
And Indiana Jones, I definitely finally understood other people's hype around it, much like a few years ago when I finally understood the Jaws hype.
I guess for me, what I would say on this before we watch these is that there's people that I don't respect their taste in movies that regard those really high. And so if that's like people's go-to staples in movies and like that's all they like is stuff like in that kind of specific genre vein, I just kind of think that they're, hot take, a little bit fucking ignorant. And it's not because of those movies specifically, but it's people that only want to have these high-class mainstream movies on their lists of best movies, right? They don't ever want to branch out and do anything different.
Well, yeah, you can tell.
So for me, that's my take, is that I think that's like a lot of generic middle-class white male, like, oh, some of my favorite movies at the time were Indiana Jones. Like, it was a very, like, product for, like, the American man.
Yeah, I see that. But I also see them as more of, like, they were, like, the PG-13 rating was invented because of them.
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom specifically, yeah.
That's why Ghostbusters was PG, because it was before.
Temple of Doom was PG. And then they were like, oh shit, we gotta do something about this. This is fucked up. There's, like, ritual sacrifice and, like, a whole bunch... There's a whole scene where Indiana Jones and the girl are tempting each other to fuck each other. Like, that's all they're doing is just being dicks to each other. Like, you don't want to fuck me. Well, yeah, well, I'll fuck you. I'll fuck you fucking so good, you fucking fuck. Like, that's what it's like.
I don't remember that dialogue.
That's the dialogue, verbatim.
That's Alec wrote the script. He remembers writing it.
Yeah, I was there. If I had a time machine, I would go back and make sure that makes it in the dialogue.
That's fair.
Scene. Change the dialogue to that scene historically.
So we will cover those soon, but we are going to watch the fourth one too, because...
Yeah.
I'm not going to let people talk shit on all this and then not show that one. Shia LaBeouf isn't amazing in that, but he's all right.
He did good, but his character's also just kind of like, meh.
Well, yeah, for what he had to work with, I think he did fine.
You guys want to cover the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles on
Fuck no.
On the episode?
Do you want to watch the Nightmare on Elm Street TV show they had that was hosted by Freddy Krueger?
Do you want to watch me take a dump right now?
Well, that you can make money for that on OnlyFans. I don't think we can make any money.
I'm asking Nick right now if he wants me to take a shit on this couch.
It's not your couch to shit on.
In your pants?
No, not in my pants. In your lap, then. Steamy. Smell that?
Bacon.
Is that all we got for news this week? Schmooze, because we got a bunch of shit we're talking about. We're gonna be rattling into your fucking ears for a while.
This, so, Alex Trebek died. Biden won. Hasbro announced the Mandalorian helmet coming out. Probably be at the $99 to $125 price point. I think typical, like a lot of their Marvel Select style helmets, or some of the other Star Wars or Power Ranger helmets in that same price point. That drops next March. Looks pretty cool if you're looking to do a Mando cosplay. That's probably an easy way to get started into it. If you actually want it to look like real metal, you'll probably have to repaint it. I did see someone do an amazing job on Instagram recently where they just used graphite and buffed that to a high gloss and then clear coated it, and that looked fucking incredible for not actually being made of metal. So
I wonder if it meets like standards for joining some of the Mandalorian groups and
the 501st. Yeah.
Not even them. There's like other Mandalorian groups that are like, your helmet has to have this exact thing to be in my group, or otherwise fuck you. And I'd be like, dude, I'm gonna fuck your mom wearing my screen inaccurate mask.
Yeah.
Just give them all wedgies and take over.
Basically.
No, I mean, I enjoy nerd culture, but like I just think it's fucking insane that nerds would try to shame other names over their quality or the content of their stuff. They're like, you have no idea what their budget is. It's what pisses me off about people being negative in the Ghostbusters fan community about spirit packs.
We're definitely not like that at the Midland Empire.
No, but yeah, you see people talking shit on it. It's like, yeah, I get that you got to do a lot of work to make them look great. But at the same time, not everyone just has money to fucking throw around, and
or time or technical know-how. I think that's what a lot of it is too. People don't have the technical know-how and they're nervous to get into it. But it's a great gateway because once they get into the technical shit on just replacing some shit on the spirit pack, they're like, oh well, I could probably put a real full-size pack together. It fucking happens all the time.
Oh yeah, it's a gateway drug for a lot of people, and people in the community fail to realize that that's a gateway for people to do other things. And there's like all these Facebook groups, but typical of the internet, right? It's just anything that can be negative will be negative on the internet. And that's like people that are, people are going to go and like share in their struggle and defiance of the world, that the world sucks and people are against us because we like spirit packs, and they got to rally together. And you're like, spirit packs, we got spirit packs here. See, nobody cares.
I would take off my straw hat if I was wearing one.
You would, and I would pour some Barbasol onto a slice of pie if we were recording this a little closer to the holidays.
Me as a kid, I never understood that was Barbasol, and I did think it was whipped cream.
Yes, and it looks so gross. He's like,
but no, it looks delicious when you're a kid because I was born in 91, okay? That came out in 93. I probably watched it for the first time in 94 or something on home video. But, like, I didn't understand shaving cream, the concept of shaving cream when I watched that movie for the first time.
That was one of those movies that I did not see in theaters, the first one. And
I could probably give you a list of like three or four movies that I don't ever remember watching for the first time. I always have watched them, and that's one of them. I don't remember whatever. It's always been in my memories.
I just remember everyone at school talking about Jurassic Park because of the Kenner line of toys, right? And people being fucking so excited about that. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then when I finally saw it on like home video or whatever, you're like, oh, fuck, that's really incredible. But I kind of have regrets about that. So, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, you need to explain to me why the fuck you could take us to see Terminator 2 at the drive-in, but you couldn't take us to see Jurassic Park. Riddle me that, Batman.
I think I saw Speed 2 at the drive-in with him.
Cruise Control?
Yeah.
On a boat?
That's Speed 2. You got it right.
That is correct.
I don't remember. Ding, ding. I don't know how that one holds up, but the first one's a pretty good film.
First one's a masterpiece.
So speaking of masterpieces and speaking of Keanu Reeves, you want to jump into our first movie?
You know what I just watched?
Me pulling a can off some moron's fist?
Return of the Jedi.
Did you see Alien? When that creature was in that guy's stomach?
Oh my god!
You ever seen that really old movie? Empire Strikes Back?
Jesus, Tony.
Welcome to Retro Release Review.
Hey, can I get 2 meatball subs and 2 lemonades to go?
Johnny Utah.
Punk. Quarterback Punk.
You guys ready to talk about the most bodacious film that stars Gary Busey as a surfing protege?
Oh, it's not Gary Busey as a surfing protege. He's the jaded prick. Which he does a great job. But Point Break. Cult classic status.
Yep, classic fucking shit.
I didn't see this until maybe 2019, I want to say. After hearing Craig on Yes Have Some hype it up. And it's one of those movies that immediately, as soon as I watched it the first time, I had to watch it over again because I was like, fuck, goddamn, this is good.
I watched it probably for the first time like 5 years ago. It was one of those ones that I saw in a $5 movie bin on DVD. And I was just like, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. I've always heard good, interesting things about this one. And I was getting into like crime movies at the time, especially 90s crime movies. They're really good. So,
oh, yeah.
It's like it's a whole thing for me. A little couple-week phase I went through like exploring new ones like that. And Point Break was one of them. And my God, I was blown away.
From here on out, though, Gary Busey will be known as the Busemeister.
This is true. In our notes and in our hearts.
In our hearts, mostly. I have it in
and
the
in our
notes,
butts.
I don't know about that.
What are you talking about? What podcast is this? Where am I? You want Gary Busey in your butt just as much as the next guy.
Well, that's weird.
Oh, well, that's weird. Justin's fucking like Walter Cronkite or some shit today. Anyway, You see Patrick Swayze's dick in this movie. No, you don't. That'd be funny, though, wouldn't it?
You see Keanu's bush. You do see that.
That is true. And you almost see Lori Petty's boobs. But you get enough of her, like, dancing around half naked where you're like, oh, she's pretty cute.
Now, you do see some rando boobies in this movie that's showering, and then she kicks Keanu's ass. Old Johnny Utah gets his ass kicked by a naked chick.
Yeah, Swayze's
pretty impressive.
Swayze's definitely pulling Kurt Russell vibes in this with his hair and beard and, like, the way he carries himself. It's like a little Kurt Russell-y.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put an eye patch on him, Captain Ron Jr.
Hey, boss. Fuck yes. So we got to get to the kink shaming though. After, Johnny Utah comes on with the whole department, and then the Busemeister man is just fucking like ripping into the rookie and doesn't want to deal with the rookie, and then finds out he's talking to the rookie, and that's a pretty funny scene. I like that.
Yeah, what does he? How does he kink shame him?
Oh, he kink shames him about once they gets his theory on everything, and he sees the sex wax.
Oh yeah.
For the surfboard, it's called sex wax.
You're not into kinky shit, are you?
That's what Keanu says to him.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
And then,
so there's a kid that's in "Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead," I believe, has a very brief role in the surfboard shop there.
Which I laughed at because when we were watching, you for a brief moment, your brain malfunctioned and you thought it was Edward Furlong.
Yeah, I did. But he had the same haircut to be in my defense.
They look pretty similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Either way, it was funny.
Well, all I know is that asshole doesn't have any action figures, so.
The surfing scenes where it's like up closes shots. It does not look like Swayze.
Doesn't look like any of them when they're
That's
fucking
what I mean,
surfing.
like,
It's
but
beautiful.
specifically Swayze, the one that sticks out, like, it just looks nothing fucking like him.
Well, yeah, because Swayze, and then the thing about Swayze that's so amazing in this movie is he has this fucking psychotic look in his eyes, like, almost all the time.
Oh, yeah.
There's times where, like, you can tell he's trying to be the Zen master and, like, shows it, but then there's times when he's talking about things and he just, like, has this look in his eyes like he's passionately crazy about it, which I think works really well for, like, knowing the level of these idiots.
Yeah. I would have liked to see some more maniacal Patrick Swayze roles.
Yeah, he could have played a fucking amazing villain, but...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess his best villain role, in my opinion, is Donnie Darko.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking petter-ass piece of shit, but...
Well, I think you're the fucking Antichrist.
So, Lori Petty is Tyler. Now, a funny thing, so... I may have missed an actor in this movie, but Alec was so high, he didn't realize how the fuck they looked up who Tyler was, after Keanu almost fucking drowned, and he had to get his ass called out on it. So Keanu basically spies on her and uses binoculars to get her license plate number. He's like, wait, how'd they figure out who she was? And I'm like, the license plate, man. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Alec
that was good.
high as balls.
Yeah, you have to be high as balls when watching Point Break. The opening title sequence, which we didn't talk about, we mentioned yesterday that it has some like Twin Peaks vibes, some of those early 90s like dark vibes, and it fucking works and it rules. And then like the slow motion, like the music is somber, and then you have the slow motion, and then Keanu's all ripped in his fucking skin tight shirt in the rain, and he's cocking a shotgun, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, give me that, give me it now.
Yeah, clearly doing his training role and everything. Yeah, it's
I really like one of the most iconic sequences in this movie, the chase scene and everything. But one of the actors in there, the actor that's the undercover DEA agent, is Tom Sizemore, who he's in a lot of movies and roles and bits here and there. But here's a couple I'll point out to you in case you don't know. Or at least I'll rattle off a few things here. He's in True Romance, Natural Born Killers. In Heat, he's one of the robbers. If you've never seen Heat, I don't think Justin's seen Heat, have you? With De Niro, Danny Trejo, Al Pacino. It's a 90s. It has one of the most iconic like shootouts between robbers and cops and shit, and it's all in the street. It's pretty epic.
If I have seen it, it was back like growing up, and I saw it on like pay cable basically, and I don't fucking remember. So
it's interesting. It's pretty fucking good. He's in Twin Peaks, The Return, and where I recognize him most iconically in my brain from is from an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Where he plays a trucker who picks up Charlie and Mac, and he's talking about fucking them and shit. He's like, I want you to take me into this hotel room and split me open like a coconut.
To go from serious cop roles to getting split open like a coconut.
Yeah, he thinks they're lot lizards when he picks them up.
That's glorious.
Yeah, so that's him.
So Lori Petty does a good role as Tyler in this. And I love how pissed she gets at him when she finds out that Johnny Utah's speech about his parents' death is so over the top, and yet my voice still cracks, so I'm hoping,
like, gee, Scoob.
I'm hoping someday my voice stops doing that, but it hasn't yet, so it's all good.
Oh, I almost forgot. This year Justin finally got pubes.
Did I?
I don't know. Did I? It was a Wayne's World joke.
I know.
It was a Wayne's World joke. It's just a prank, bro. Just a prank.
Oh, the other thing that's funny is when they start stealing people's fucking hair off the beach to figure out, the ocean chemical, makeup of that, of, which beach they're at and stuff. And he's, clips off his hair, and he's like, I'm making a wig for my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck?
And then Keanu is fucking says there's a bug in some guy's hair, and he just rips a fucking chunk of his hair out, and he's like,
oh man, that was close.
Yeah, so close. He's like, this movie is serious Keanu, right? So it's right on the cusp of Bill and Ted Keanu versus
this is the turning
Matrix.
point.
Yes. And he's still stuck in between, so he just goes back between brilliant and ignorant in between.
I need to show you River's Edge. He's in that. And with Dennis Hopper and Crispin Glover. That shit rules. It's a lot darker. It feels like Twin Peaks. But
Nice.
He's in it, but he's still teenage surfer dude, but he's more like teenage surfer dude dressed in 80s grungy, punk vibes or whatever.
So this movie has the night surfing scene, which heavily influences the Lost Boys, the tribe. Because they have the whole night surfing bullshit on there that goes around the same time. I was like, I see.
Yeah.
Trying to go for that adrenaline junkie bullshit. It's interesting.
Yeah. Let's see, I do have a note here about the whole lawnmower sequence reminding me of Dead Alive.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Especially because it kind of foreshadows it by showing the lawnmower in the background, just the way the other one does earlier by having the mower come over the camera.
Well, it's the mowing in the background, and then the whole thing gets botched because the mower's so fucking loud in the radio and no one can hear what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that fucking near life experience, as Tyler Durden would call it, was fucking heroic.
Yeah, no, that's one of the best sequences in the movie. That whole everything that happens there, and like you said, him fighting the fucking naked woman, and she kicks the shit out of him. And he's like, hey, have anybody seen my dog Scooby? Scooby.
Yeah, he goes out looking for the dog. Hey, Scooby, it's a little dog here. And then the fucking DEA gets all pissed off.
Yeah, he loses his shit. You think I like dressing like this? You think I like my hair like this? No, man. My wife wanted me to stay at Ramada. He goes off.
He's like, I'm 3 months in undercover, and you're like, well, maybe you should fucking have some communication between bureaus, dick nose. I have no sympathy for that guy at all, because that just shows you how fucking poorly mismanaged the government was. And I like that part because it's like real life.
Yeah.
Let people fuck shit up, and they shall.
Basically.
The gas station fight.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Lighting the fucking gas shooting out of the fucking pump on fire.
Spraying the gas everywhere at people, too. That's like some Mad Max style shit right there, that sequence. I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah.
It just has great vibes. This is one of those things that's it just has iconic imagery. The imagery of some jackass in a tuxedo in a fucking Reagan mask doing that, fuck, it just looks cool as shit. It's hard to deny it and just be captivated by that.
Oh yeah, I mean, just watch the trailer for this and you'll see what it's all about. And then obviously they talk about Johnny Utah fucking up his knee in college, I guess, basically, so he couldn't pursue that, and that was interesting.
Anytime I think of this now, I also think of like many people my age, maybe, or a little bit younger, who have seen some newer movies, but not this one, you may think of Hot Fuzz because there's obviously a big reference to it when he says, do you want to watch Point Break? Well, there's references throughout the whole fucking movie, but at one point he's like, do you want to watch Point Break or Bad Boys 2? And he's like, I don't know, whichever one. And he's like, no, which one do you want to watch first? And then he shows them both, and he makes a big deal about the whole scene where he first fucking does the thing to his knee and he falls down and he can't chase Swayze any further. And he's talking about how he shoots his gun in the air and shit. And then they mimic that scene at the end of the movie when he's gone bad for a minute or whatever. Nick Frost's character. And he, instead of shooting Simon Pegg, shoots up into the air and screams just like it.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. Iconic.
Which is hilarious, too, because Gary Busey calls him out on that bullshit after the fact, right? And he's like, hey, you didn't do that. But then the other thing is, like, you'd have had all those fucking rounds in the concrete had you actually tried shooting at him and missed. Instead, you shot him up and, what goes up must come down.
Right.
Fucking asshole is what that is. Like, that's irresponsible and shit. You're like, no. It's like idiots on New Year's Eve going out and fucking blowing guns off into the sky. You're like, fucking shoot into the ground, cheese dick.
Yep. Or, into yourself.
Yeah, that too.
Into your own fucking dick. Or your foot. There's a whole thing.
Oh, that foot shot scene too, when they're doing that raid, is fucking brutal.
Oh, yeah.
That fucking blows that shoe apart and there's blood everywhere. I'm like, oh man, you know how fucking bad that had to hurt.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good shot. And like, it looked good effects-wise too. Like, it just blows open and it's bleeding everywhere.
It's really funny too when they go on that whole robbery with they're forcing Keanu to go to the bank with them and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that sequence is pretty good, but it's not one of the better ones. It's not terrible. It gets good, I think, when they all get shot and the chaos happens at the end. And then once they're in the fucking airplane, that guy's fucking like, they're trying to get the parachute on the guy who's clearly fucking dying. And Keanu's like,
you're getting cold because you're dying. Fuck you.
You fucking rips him apart as he's fucking sitting there dying.
And then they get all butthurt about it and pissed off.
And then he gets the chute on the guy, Swayze does, and he takes him over to the edge of the airplane and just kind of fucking throws he's facing back out towards it. And then he throws his feet up and the guy just falls. And apparently he opens his chute at some point, but then by the time he hits the ground, he's just a fucking corpse.
Yeah, like the fall impact
doesn't
killed
get
him.
back up.
Yeah, like I got total Top Gun vibes from that. I was making jokes. Oh, Goose. Oh, Goose. Oh, no. Because he just fucking lands like a limp dead body there, and you're like, oh, there he is. And then my favorite part of that whole thing is, like, Bodhi is such a fucking beast and, like, psychotic, crazy asshole that he's all worried about this guy when he's alive, but the minute he's dead, he's like, fuck it. Goes and fucking just takes the money. Like, that's priority number one. Because when you first see his dead body there's, like, money blowing around and everything else. You're like, oh, shit.
Yep.
But that is an amazing sequence where Johnny Utah is just like, fuck it, and jumps out of the airplane without a fucking chute. All because they'd gone skydiving earlier and, like, gave him the crazy confidence for that adrenaline rush. He's like, fuck, if I'm going to die, I can, I can just do this.
Right.
And then there's that whole thing where they have that at gunpoint and they're counting down. He's like, 5 seconds, 6,000, or it's like 1,000 feet. And he's like, 5, 4. And he fucking tosses the fucking gun and pulls the cord. So.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And I love how when they catch those guys robbing the bank, Busey's like trying to eat his sandwich. He's like, hey, do you notice that red Lincoln up there? And he's like,
right.
He's still just trying to eat his sandwich.
He ain't paying a bit of a fucking attention.
Yeah.
He fucks that all up.
Yep.
And then he gets shot to death later.
Yeah.
So that happens.
Yep.
Busemeister down.
Yep. Cynical Busemeister goes down, taking one for glory.
And then you have more of those Twin Peaks vibes when you're getting the mountains and it feels like it's in Oregon, even though they say it's Australia. And you're like, this is clearly the town of Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
like,
the Pacific Northwest. I feel like John Candy every time I say that.
Is this where the Goonies take place?
Yeah, it's a chain in the Pacific Northwest. Won't do us much good here. But if you ever need big and tall.
Fucking out Bigfoot hunting, but Keanu shows up in a Canadian tuxedo to arrest Patrick Swayze, who's standing on the beach like a Jedi or some shit in the rain.
Yeah.
And then, he does this whole bit where he attempts to handcuff him and shit.
Well, he tries to drown him and he tricks him into that by handcuffing him to himself and then realizes the 50-year storm's there, which they kind of talk about earlier on, like going back to the whole philosophy of Bodhi throughout the movie, which they touch base on, so. Like, they do a good job of giving you just enough to care about that character, even though he's an asshole, but just enough to be intrigued by him, right? Like, for a villain, he's not like someone you're like, oh, he's like hurting people on purpose. He's just doing it because he's fucking adrenaline, like, nutcase, and like, just to have any fear of anything. And like, he's really impressed when Utah jumps out of the fucking plane without a chute after his ass. I think that was an amazing thing, too. Like, there's this level of respect going back and forth between these two that, like, even though they know what the fuck's going on, they're like, hey, you know, they make it very interesting when all that shit's going down.
Yeah. It is, it's a fascinating movie. And then you can assume, or not assume, that Patrick Swayze basically goes out and commits suicide by surfing, which is pretty fucking awesome.
Yep.
Like, as a film and cinematic ending, and just thematic about that character, what it says about him.
Well, yeah, the ambiguity there that they leave it there, like, did he let him die?
Right.
Did he die doing what he loved? Did he survive and then go to jail after doing that 50-year, surfing that 50-year storm? Who knows?
And then you get that imagery of Keanu pulling out his badge, looking at it in the rain, contemplating, and fucking throwing it.
Yep. But I did appreciate the dialogue those two have on the beach as well. He's like, are you still surfing? And Keanu's like, every day. So, you know, there's still that, like, level of competitiveness. Like, even though, like, you're at the resolution here, you know, they got all this shit going on, and they're really deep into it still. And, you know, he talks about how he's chasing, like, Carmen Sandiego. He's like, missed you by a week here. There, you know, like, all around and stuff. So.
Where in the world is Patrick Swayze?
He's dead.
Yeah, he's 6 feet under.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm talking about the 90s. I'm not asking you a fucking question.
Well, it's ironic because
bastards.
he was in the movie Ghost in the 90s, and now he really is a ghost, if you believe in that sort of thing. Why don't you tell him you don't believe in ghosts?
So that's Point Break.
We're going to say the same goddamn thing.
So that's Point Break. The film that you should watch if you haven't.
So, we'll jump into Mandalorian, Season 2, Episode 2.
Water cooler, cold, cold, cold. 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 Water cooler, join the cold, cold. Water cooler, join the cold, cold. Water cooler, drink it out. Water cooler, join the water cooler, cold.
Chapter 10. Thanks, Nick. The producer finally has something useful to say.
Fapiano, we're celebrating Fapiano over here. Fapiano, by the way, is the Melmacian Thanksgiving, so I'm not just being crude. That is the, in fact, name of
That's correct.
Alf's Thanksgiving. So, we are going to be covering some random Alf episodes throughout the holiday season, so expect to hear more about Alf.
And he's an alien, and technically, is he canon? Is he in the Senate scenes in Episode 1? I know the E.T. creatures are, but is Alf in there?
I don't know, but Alf and the child would probably have a lot in common. They just like to eat random shit.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good fucking mashup. Can we do a crossover?
Yeah,
I'll produce that. No, but Season 2, Episode 2, Chapter 10, as Nick wants us to remember, very much a Monster of the Week episode.
Yeah, definitely Monster of the Week episode. Definitely.
It's crazy, though, because basically he's transporting this refugee to a new planet, and...
Frog refugee.
Yeah, they don't get to it by then. Is she a frog or a salamander or a gecko?
Well, I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be a frog because she leaps like a frog at one point. Just like a frog.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
And they have eggs like a frog would. I guess I don't know what salamanders have or don't have, but, you know, I'm not a fucking expert on this shit. But I just think it's a frog from the way she was leaping.
Could be. And then everyone's like, if you don't like spiders, don't watch this episode. You're like, fuck right off with that. It's great because of that.
It's a movie, or yeah, not a movie, but you know what I mean. Like it's fiction.
It's visual stimulus.
It's easy to watch.
Yeah, and if you're scared of something, watch it.
There was a stuntman in Episode 6 whose first name was Alf.
Of Alf?
You know, the guy who composed the theme music for Alf also was named Alf.
Alf Joint.
Imagine being that guy.
But there's an There's another named Alf. That
So
was
basically, he made his own theme song.
Right.
It's basically. He probably already had that song written, so like when he walked into the room, he played it.
We probably owe him money because we sample it in our opening theme.
It's
Not
very
if
sweet
you
on
sample- Not if you sample it, I think.
Well, I mean, excuse me, but I have studied music rights in school, and yes, we would because it's significant. But we also probably won't ever because we don't make money off of our theme music. We're not marketing it, but it's arguable that we could be sued over it.
Well, I think YouTube would just demonetize you. I don't know about the other one.
Well, that's only if somebody comes to claim it. The way YouTube works is they have these auto-claim things. There's like basically claim farms where people get cuts if they find shit they can claim for a company to make money off of. Like people sitting in a bunch of offices, you know, all on YouTube watching people's videos. It's a whole thing. But either way.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian instead of Alf and music copyright laws.
Yes. So, you know, he goes to Tatooine again, right? And you're like, where he's leaving, basically wraps up, you know, picks up right where Chapter 9 ended. He goes back to the cantina, or not to the cantina, but it goes back to Mos Eisley Spaceport. Goes back there, figures that all shit out. And it's like, okay, we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave now, but I need you to do this. Okay, so he decides to take this frog lady to meet with her husband on another planet, like a whole sacrificial thing. You're like, well, our species is gonna end, and I'm like, part of me says that if your gene pool is that limited, it may not matter because you're gonna be so inbred, it's not gonna do anything good in the long term. If you come down to like literally the last two of a species,
yeah,
like,
especially if you're not that concerned about the count of your eggs.
Yes, yeah. So there's things about this episode that you're like,
you just get more inbred as more eggs you
like
lose.
so your offspring are going to reproduce with themselves or with you. So that's like if you're down to the last two of your kind, I think that's really fucking twisted.
Started out with just Adam and Eve.
Shut the fuck up, Nick. I'm not even going to have that conversation with you.
Hey, it's Adam and Steve.
Yeah. If that's the case, explain hemophilia to me and why we don't all have it.
Adam stuck his penis inside Steve's penis. And that's how we created the first woman.
That's just your butt period.
It's science.
We created the first woman from Adam's rib.
No, from
dirt.
Adam sticking his penis into Steve's penis. And then the first woman was birthed from that penis.
From their butt.
It's science. It's simple science. You can research these things.
This was like
read a fucking book.
Ago.
It's also about the dinosaur museum that says that they took place a couple days before the Bible.
Yeah. Adam was the only human. Here's a fact. By rib, if you look at the translations, it actually meant penis because Adam was the only human that actually had a penis bone that would erect from his body. So
it was always
look it up. Look it up.
He's like a walrus.
I got facts. I'm starting to feel like Alex Jones right now. Like just spouting off random fucking shit.
We are way off track here.
It's fucking awesome though. No, this Mandalorian episode. Anyway, Alex Jones guest starred on it, and no,
Frog Woman.
They did have the X-wing pilots on there from the new, basically the post. You know, basically, because they're building the New Republic, essentially, right? And they're out there kind of defending them. So they're trying to say, hey, like, what's going on over here? You're supposed to have a beacon on. Mando plays dumb with it. That was entertaining.
They very much played that like they were cops. They acted like cops, like pulling someone over. That's how they played the roles. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what they were told. But, you know.
Yeah. And that makes sense. But at the end, they kind of come back and kind of bail him out after they realize where he's actually at. So they weren't. You know, it kind of worked out in that way. So I imagine we'll probably see some more of their likes. Not necessarily them specifically, but you never know.
Yeah.
So,
the spider stuff wasn't bad, but to me, it just gave me Harry Potter vibes. So, in the second Harry Potter, there's a big fucking spider sequence with a giant spider and a bunch of little spiders.
Yeah, and there's that in the Resident Evil games too, right? So it didn't really feel fresh to me.
Well, I mean, there's that in the Wild Wild West movie too. But, you know, giant spiders.
But the way that it was like alien or aliens versus, you know, as a spider itself, right? It's basically like the combination of these two things. And visually it looked good, right? I had no complaints on the visuals of it, the way it all played out, and like the large thing.
It seemed like it would be better as I don't know, hot take as a Star Wars like comic book. It gave me comic book vibes as opposed to like live action, but it was live action, so it's like...
I feel like this didn't really progress the story at all, right? It felt like this was like a filler episode to some degree.
Yeah.
Just because you're like, okay, we're stalling to get to other content, but we kind of want to have a pit stop along the way.
See, I've only watched every episode once through now, but if I rewatch them, it definitely would be on the lower side of the rankings for sure. But it's not bad by any means. It's still like, I would rather rewatch that than Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker or Solo still. So
yeah, there's a fair amount of freshness to it as well, right? So I mean, I get that. So, but in the grand scheme of thing, I'm looking at more towards the bigger story arc here, and I'm thinking, okay, so where do we go? So now it did leave a cliffhanger ending, so they are trying to draw some anticipation week to week. So it's like, okay, yeah, let's see what happens this Friday. But had fun with it, right? So
yeah.
The one thing I did like that they carried over from the end of the episode is that Mando still has that. What do they call that? The crypt. The crate, the animal they killed.
The crate dragon.
The crate dragon, yeah. The crate dragon, like, he still had the guts, like, dried all over his armor at the beginning of the episode. Like, you could see, like, the stuff dried all over there. And I really like the continuity continuation there. A lot of shows don't go to that level, so...
It was really good that his frost on his armor progressed through the episode, too. That was really cool looking.
Yes.
Because, it's like a metal fucking suit.
Yep.
That was so fucking cool and interesting to see, like just that little detail.
And then the child here, right? The child really is hardly in episode 1, or chapter 10. And whatever. Yeah, there's too much bullshit going on with this now. Anyway, so yeah, the child's hardly in the first episode of this season, and then this episode he's like not doing anything super interesting. So it's like, okay, so they hyped him up so much in the first season, and then you're like, okay, so what's he gonna do, right? What's he gonna do? But then I did like how they kind of grounded him in reality, right? You're like, you've seen him use the Force a couple of times for some pretty spectacular shit that we'd never necessarily even seen before, like the Force healing. That episode aired right before we saw that in The Rise of Skywalker, right? That was strategically timed.
Force healing has only really been in like some of the new Star Wars media, like Rise of Skywalker and this, and I don't know if it's been in anything else.
Yeah, and it doesn't bother me by any means, right? It just seems like more like something a Sith would do based off like the concept of living forever. But whatever.
I
mean, the only other person I've seen do it is Rey. So
she was kind of, she was the daughter of.
Well, she was still on her path too, as well. Yeah. So I guess I'm just interested to see, like, is this? It's obviously The Mandalorian is the title of the series, and so there's already speculation that they started shooting a Boba Fett series.
I will point out, though, your concept of light and dark side is something that only comes from the Jedi within the Force, correct?
Yeah.
So, if you don't believe in the Jedi religion, but you believe in the Force, that's a whole thing they haven't really explored much in this show.
No,
but they did it with like Rogue One, like the guy. The Force is with me. I am one with the Force.
Yeah,
like that was cool as shit. That's one of my favorite parts of that. So
you heard that they're making a Boba Fett series?
Yeah, someone said they were starting shooting on a Boba Fett. I don't know if that was comicbook.com. I don't know how reputable.
Yeah, we'll see if that comes to fruition. I'll watch that. I'm super stoked about the Obi-Wan series because Ewan McGregor was like, that's the best casting for the prequel trilogy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
The best role, the best character, for me. My favorite. Let's put it that way.
He is what makes the prequel trilogy enjoyable for me, right? His development as a character over that time.
And I mean, Qui-Gon Jinn's great in episode 1 too. You got some things in there other than the whole midichlorian thing. We won't get into that, but
yeah, which is pretty much dropped immediately since then. But, yeah.
We're going to test your bloodstream.
Before we get away from the child, I guess according to the internet, people are turning on the child for eating those eggs now.
Oh yeah, and it's like whatever bullshit because these people most of them are meat eaters anyway. Unless they're gonna stop eating meat and denounce it and go vegan, they have no room to talk about the child eating fucking these eggs.
And like I said,
and especially a fictional character,
you're gonna have a fucking species that's so inbred it won't fucking matter anyway. Like just fucking let it die off. If you're down to 2 of you, it's fucking disgusting. You're either gonna be fucking your parents or you're fucking your siblings. Okay. Gross. Let that little guy eat them. And who's not to say that in the next episode, he wasn't like incubating them inside his body to keep him warm and like poops and he poops out some full-grown hatchlings or some shit.
Rip out of his chest.
It's not going to do an alien. They already did that. That was this episode.
Yeah,
but
they
yeah,
did
who's not
the
to say
eggs.
that he hasn't actually a savior for those eggs? Because when you see him eat the spider hatchling, he chews that thing apart. But when he eats the eggs, he looks like your mom and just takes the ball all the way in his mouth and swallows.
Bedroom golf with that motherfucker.
I was talking to you, Nick.
You were looking at your brother.
No, I don't make jokes about my mom, just yours.
You were looking.
He knows because he knew I was making a joke about your mom.
Yep.
Yeah, he did seem to swallow the eggs whole. So maybe.
Yeah, so there's a whole other thing on there. But yeah, to Alex's point,
Your
right?
mom's mouth is like the fucking corner pocket of a pool table. Balls galore.
Yeah,
Eight balls, corner pocket.
What's your mom and the child have in common? They're adorable and they have a mouthful of balls.
I think mine was better.
Probably.
I don't know, maybe.
I'm just waiting if like Nick's ever gonna flip on us and like just lose his mind and be like, God damn it, I'm gonna break your couch and break your life.
We should call my mom live.
We could flirt with her.
Oh, dude, I would totally hit on your mom. I don't give a shit. You got a stepdad still?
Yeah.
You can call me Dad.
You got sisters too, right?
The only issue is she's very unreliable to answer the phone.
Oh, that's fine. We'll wait another day. She always answers when I call. I must be in her favorites list.
It's
Anyway,
funny. I
so-
never call her. She always calls me. It's a thing.
She's in a wheelchair, though.
That is
I feel like he's not serious, and there should be a joke about something there, but I can't comfortably make that now. So,
Well, I'm gonna just tell you this. So in junior high, they had a.
Oh Jesus Christ! Where the fuck is this going?
No. It's in junior high. They had a speaker come to us that was she was disabled in a wheelchair, right? And they just wanted to like show us like diversity type stuff, right? And, you know, here's her perspective, right? And she did a Q&A at the end, right? And she's like, before I get started, she's like, because I'm in a room full of like kids that are like cackling and like laughing about everything, right? Because, you know, she had a good sense of humor about it all. She's like, yes, I can still have sex, and yes, I can still enjoy it. And we're like, okay. And like that really shut up a lot of the room, because that was the first thing they're going to ask is like, is it enjoyable if you're paralyzed down below the waist? Can you
It
have a
depends
kid?
on the person too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so it was just one of those things. So
your legs can stop working, but that stuff still works. But
so
also,
all I'm saying here is that your mom, maybe however she is,
Was she attractive? Or?
your mom, of course.
Oh, in the
How many kids does she have?
The wheelchair woman.
one more on
Kids
the way.
really want to know that about her.
Well, I mean, I think there was a natural curiosity there. But so all I'm saying is that just because someone's in a wheelchair doesn't mean you're not going to treat them like you treat anybody else. Right? Diversity and
Yeah.
inclusion.
Oh God,
And that's a whole other level of hashtags we add onto the OnlyFans videos.
Yeah. This reminds me of just like the segment on SNL with Adam Sandler. What was that segment where he would call his ex-girlfriend?
Brenda.
Brenda, is that what it was? Where he'd be.
Well, it was Brenda from Mallrats. And
They'd always call her, and then they'd call like her friends and shit. And it was very weird, and he's always awkward, and that's what this is reminding me of now.
this is where I call my girlfriend and cry her.
So we're gonna call her and leave her another voice.
So are we jumping into the next movie?
I think we're jumping into top 5.
Let's do top 5.
Top 5 to the top 5. Top 5 to the top 5.
Top 5. Top 5.
Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5.
This is top 5.
Top 5 this week is brought to you by the genius that is my brother.
You're fucking right.
And he came up with a good one. We hadn't had anything until right before this podcast, and he threw it on us with a time crunch. And he said, what's your top 5?
Tom Hanks movie. No, it was... What was the first one?
I said Tom Cruise first.
Tom Cruise, yeah.
Because I was trying to think of somebody that has fucking
extensive
consistently
filmography,
worked
yes.
for like 30 years or something that you can, like, there's plenty of shit to pick from.
But Leonardo DiCaprio is who he said. And I said, that's good. That's good. Real good list. So we're going to jump
Little
into
did you know how hard it would be. Oh, that's what No, that's what
Nick's
I said.
over there saying that's what she said. Well, we already knew that. So, anyway, top 5 Leonardo DiCaprio movies. So, Alec.
No, you're going to have to go first.
My number 5. Let me get to my list here. Don't you look at my list. You're producing. You haven't produced. I know. That's beautiful. So, my number 5 is the 2004 film The Aviator as Howard Hughes. So, number 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I like that one.
I enjoy it. I like how decrepit and gross he looks like when he's in fucking isolation.
Is that a Scorsese movie?
I'm not sure who directed that, honestly. But
Nick, fact check us on that. I don't think he directed that, but somebody...
But that is so good because I love how when he's, like, dealing with, like, that crazy agoraphobia and won't fucking leave the room, like, he truly looks like he's full-on fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah, okay,
and
that
the
wasn't
fingernails
crazy,
get
then.
really long, and his hair gets gross, and, like, you're just, like... Crazy to see an actor like that that's known for...
Are you talking about Man in the Iron Mask?
No.
And it was released on
Just giving you
Christmas
shit.
Day.
All right, what's your number 5?
Number 5 is Leonardo DiCaprio as Frank Abagnale Jr. in 2002's Spielberg-directed Catch Me If You Can. This movie fucking rules. That's one of those good, like, feel-good movies. It has a little bit, like, in the beginning, like, some sad vibes where, like, when he's running away from home and shit and he's dealing with his parents' divorce, where it's like, if you've ever dealt with anything like that, you get genuine anxiety during that scene. But the rest of the movie is pretty easy to watch, and it's a fucking righteous good time. Tom Hanks is hilarious in this movie, too, but we're talking Leonardo DiCaprio roles. Leonardo in this role was one of the first ones that I saw him as a kid that it got me out of that Titanic mindset, because as a kid, that's what you fucking knew him for. Especially, I'm born in 91, so that's fucking what was happening. So that's my number 5.
100% agree on that one. That's my number 4 for that reason, right? You start seeing his ability to perform, like, grow and evolve, right? And he goes from being just that guy that, everyone says, like, oh, he's cute or he's hot or whatever, and then you start seeing, like, the depth that he has, and you're like, oh, shit, he's actually a contender here, right?
Yeah.
And you start seeing, like, how great he is in that role, and then, the Tom Hanks counterbalance in there is really well done. Like, right, those two complement each other, and it's a fun movie. And based on the way that all worked out, like, his character is fun for being someone that's kind of like a fucking sleaze.
Yeah.
Like, up to no good, doing all kinds of stuff. So, number 4 for me is Catch Me If You Can. So, what's your number 4?
Number 4, for me, is one of his more despicable characters. One of many. This one's from 2012, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Calvin Candy is his role in Django Unchained. And, it's hard not to throw this one on your number 1 spot because he's so fucking good in it, but he's such a despicable character that you fucking love to hate this man more than almost anybody in fucking any movie ever made. It is fucking incredible how hateable this man is, and his performance is fucking crazy. It's so good. It blew my mind when I saw it. That was one of the most horrifying movies, like, the first time I watched it.
So, for that specific reason, it's not on my top 5. It's an honorable mention for sure, but he is such a fucking piece of shit human that you're like, fuck you, I don't want to see you. But he plays the role so well. Like, it just shows you how much of a chameleon he can be when he wants to be.
Yeah, it's fucking incredible.
So, my number 3 is from 2010, Inception as Dom Cobb.
This
and
is
to me,
my honorable mention, so I understand this one.
So for me, like, the overall cast is really what makes this movie, but, like, the side story that he's got going on within it, right, kind of carrying the story along, really makes it great.
Oh, yes. I wanted to put this on my list, but I had to be, like, more critical with myself and not include it. But I do love that movie. I love Christopher Nolan movies in general, and...
Well, it's great, right? He's got Ellen Page in there. She has a good character.
Tom Hardy's in it.
Cillian Murphy's in there, and he I like his character in there as well, right?
What's the fucking guy's name? I can't even remember his name now. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
He's in it too, and it's pretty good.
So that's like a stellar cast, but I think just the stuff that's going on with his personal life and explaining why he's going where he is with it. Like, he kind of gives you the background to the whole concept, which is what I like about his character, because he just looks like he's on the brink the entire time of, like, is this real or not? And I think that really makes it
as far as movies go,
entertaining.
you know, people will argue that that's one of the most nonsensical movies ever made. It makes sense if you watch it enough, like, the concept anyway. Of course, it's not realistic, but, I mean, if you're watching movies for realism, what the fuck are you doing? Just go watch life. Stop watching the TV and go live some shit. But, like, this movie, it is one of the most original fucking film concepts of the last 20 or 30 years. It's fucking incredible.
When you see what they did in some of the scenes in that movie, and then you watch Doctor Strange, and, like, the visual take on Doctor Strange would not be possible without the visual take that Inception provided to lay the groundwork for that.
Absolutely. My number 3, it's going to have to be another despicable role, but this one's not anywhere near as hateable. It's a lot funnier.
Okay.
But it's from 2013, from another Scorsese movie, which I didn't have one on my list yet, but you did. Wolf of Wall Street. He plays Jordan Belfort. I didn't see this movie in theaters. I saw it like a year after it was released, maybe. And I was just kind of like, all right, I like Scorsese's stuff. I like Taxi Driver and Goodfellas, and I hadn't seen much else other than that. So I gave it a watch and was like, holy shit. That was fucking awesome. I laughed my fucking ass off. Like the scene where he is trying to save Jonah Hill's life when he's choking, and he fucking goes into the cabinet, and after he sees Popeye take spinach on the TV, and he takes Coke and uses it like that, I fucking was on the floor laughing. I lost my shit, and he does it so well, everything in that whole movie, and he's like I said, he's a despicable guy, kind of, so, but it's a great, great movie, and a great role and performance, so.
That's on my list, but I'll get to that, so. Meaning that you already know where that's going to land because we're at my number 2. So my number 2 is Rick Dalton from 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you can't... the fucking Rick Dalton memes alone should just let you know, like, how fucking glorious this is. Like, that's just been the entire year of 2020 is, like, all these Rick Dalton memes. It's amazing. But he is so fucking good in that movie.
Yeah.
Great, great, great fucking performance. And that's one of those movies it's got a fair amount of slow burning going on, but it's never dull because the dialogue is fucking on point, the character development is on point. So if you can't handle a movie that's got some of that going on, it may not be for you, but goddamn, it's great.
Yeah, I definitely see how it's one of his less mainstream movies just because people want certain and expect certain things out of him, but it's still one of my favorite films of his in the last 20 years and everything in general. Great.
Yeah, if I had to stack rank his, it would be difficult because that was so fucking well done. All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is from 1995. He plays Jim Carroll in Basketball Diaries, which, if you haven't seen, we'll watch sometime because I do have it. It's really fucking good. He's like, I believe it's a Catholic high school that he's in. He's a basketball member. And it's not really too much about the basketball. You know what I mean? Because that's why I never watched this movie. I thought it was like high school drama with basketball. No, it's about Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Wahlberg being addicted to fucking crime and heroin while also on a Catholic basketball high school team where their coach tries to fuck him and shit. Like, it's a fucking dark but epic movie, and he gives a fucking great performance, and he's still young, you know, like real young, like it fucking is awesome. So, yeah, we'll have to watch that.
Yeah, I have not seen that one. Our older sister likes that movie, and because of that, I said, I'm not watching that.
Oh. It has Ernie Hudson in it. So.
Yeah, so between my older sister liking that and then, like, other people liking that, like, around the time because they liked it just because they thought Leonardo DiCaprio was hot, there's definitely been some movies where I'm like, I'm not watching a movie if you like it just because there's some teen heartthrob in it at the time, right?
Right.
But, I mean, like, when you remove yourself from that hype around that bullshit, you can see that there's actually good roles, right? So, I understand that. But, yeah, I would like to see that just to check it out. So, my number 1, as you predicted, or as I alluded to, is The Wolf of Wall Street.
Nice.
He's so fucking crazy over the top in that movie, man. Again, he's, like, playing a role And the thing I love about that is the Jonah Hill performance in there.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's great.
Jonah Hill fucking counterbalances his crazy so well in there, right? Which is interesting because Jonah Hill's like known as being funny, and like he's not like the fucking comedian in this, right? It's like
he's pretty funny too,
but it's almost role reversal because like the shit Leonardo DiCaprio doing is so ridiculous. Like I found myself laughing at the fucking over the top stuff he was doing, way more than probably the average person. Like I was like, oh my god. And again, I didn't see this in theaters either. I saw this like after it came out, and I think probably after you and I talked about it, and you were telling me how good it was, watching that, and you're like, oh shit, because it's one of those movies that the visuals don't dictate or translate that you have to see this on a big screen. It wouldn't hurt, but there's nothing in there that you're gonna feel like you missed out an insane amount. Maybe besides like the peer reaction, the crowd reaction.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be the only thing I felt I would have missed out by not seeing that in theaters that way. But that's my number one. What's yours?
My number one
Dramatic pause.
Is Rick fucking Dalton. Because that's what Once Upon a Time is to me. It's the Rick fucking Dalton show. Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie is just so captivating. Anytime he's on the screen, whatever he's fucking doing is interesting. I mean, you could argue the same for Brad Pitt in that movie too, to be honest. But specifically Leo, the scene when he's bitching himself out in the trailer, and he's like, "No, we're gonna quit drinking. We're gonna quit drinking." The scenes where he's finally re-inspired and he's acting again, and then even at the end when shit goes nuts and he's like, bitching at the hippies and shit. That everything throughout that movie is awesome. His performance when he's crying in the parking lot, everything, it's great. He's the best part of that movie for me, though, for sure.
Oh, and he's just so fucking good in that role.
Yeah.
To me, like, that's another one, like, with him and Brad Pitt and, like, all the people in that make it really good. So this is a really fucking hard list to put together.
I remember seeing the trailer for this movie and seeing him with the eye patch and the flamethrower going like, "Any of you like fried sauerkraut?" and just being like, holy shit, what is this? And then you see in the movie, when that scene comes on for 5 seconds, you're almost disappointed for a minute. And then they fucking bring it back at the end, the flamethrower.
Oh, yes. I like that as a fucking trailer edits go, that is perfect because it gives you a taste of like what to expect, and then when it find out it's a film roll, you're like, what the fuck? And then like at the end when it comes back and you're like, oh fuck yes.
Yeah.
Oh fuck yes. Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Nick's over there making the vinegar strokes face. If you're not familiar with what the vinegar strokes are, that's
showing my O face. That's
the ugly face you make when you orgasm. No one looks pretty orgasming.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, most people look like they've got something sour in their mouth when they're going.
Interesting. This is getting very personal, Justin.
Maybe the way you do it.
Let me think for a second. Like that.
Awkward pause for the vinegar strokes. Yeah. If you haven't seen the TV show The League, that's what that reference is to, and they have a whole episode about that.
Yeah, I don't care for the league, so.
Oh, it's fucking hilarious. The football stuff just happens to be in there too.
It's like basically like a football fan. Like if you liked It's Always Sunny, but you also wanted something worse with football jokes in it, watch the league. That's what it feels like to me.
And that's I respect your take on that, but that's fine. There's a lot of things I liked in there too, so there's some funny stuff. Now some of the later seasons got a little fucking shitty, but some of the earlier ones had some real fucking comedy gold.
What else are we talking about?
Well, we need to talk about film exposure.
What do you mean you haven't seen this film supreme made up of a dream team? This movie's pretty great. You're fucking late. Let's accelerate and get it on your plate.
And you don't want us exposing ourselves. And you don't want us exposing ourselves. Exposing ourselves.
Film exposure this week is me being the asshole that I am. I have this weird thing where like someone will overhype something that's like just outside of my personal interests.
Who overhypes this? Nobody thinks this shit is like super good.
Okay, so this came out when I was in high school, and every fucking idiot I went to high school with was like jerking off to this movie.
9 sequels.
They're fucking like blowing loads all over their faces for this. Like
That's because it's a cash grab, though, not because it's ever quality. Although the newer ones do have higher Rotten Tomatoes rankings.
Anyway, so I just remember everyone in fucking high school wanted their car to look like the cars in this movie and was like dropping crazy amounts of money on it for a while. And like that was all like, there was like, oh, if you can't do this to your car, you're not cool. And you're like, calm your fucking tits. And so because of the cultural attitude by people I knew that liked this movie, I refused to watch it. Until now. Because when Alex sold me on it, Alex said this is basically a watchable remake of Point Break. Interesting.
Yes.
That caught my attention because they remade Point Break. And again, like when I'm always saying like reboot movies and just use a different title or remake a movie just to steal the concept and do it, this is one that's entertainingly well done for that concept, right? Okay, take the whole cop becomes pals with the people he's supposed to be busting, like, right? They have that
who
whole
are into an adrenaline sport-like thing, or
exactly. So
their tribe.
It's very interesting how that worked out that way, and like it's very accurate the way you described that too. So
and both of them are described through a lot of people with like homoerotic themes too, without actually like undertones, I would say. You know what I mean? Just because of the way the characters are, and all that is like people talking shit on like male bonding, basically.
Yeah, and like essentially, right? Because like
being macho bullshit motherfuckers.
Yeah, they say homoerotic, and you're just like, well, no, I just see it as like, and Nick moves his hand away as I accidentally touch him. So
right,
calm down, Nick.
Like I might have made jokes while watching this about Paul Walker fucking Vin Diesel, but it wasn't like in a serious way. It was only in a way because they are on screen a lot together, and we make a lot of fucking jokes.
And more importantly, people would pay a lot of money to have seen that. There's people that really love that concept. So
that's why Brokeback Mountain did so well. I mean, you could have made. There's a universe where you remake Point Break and you do make them gay, and it is not bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's still interesting, right?
That would be a fucking interesting twist. Instead of doing Point Break with women, just do it with gay dudes and make them actually fucking them the ones falling in love with each other, and then he finds out that he's doing that. And we've done that concept with the man and woman before.
Oh yeah, plenty. Yeah,
but they need to do it like this.
Yeah, so the concept of these movies, like, the whole homoerotic, but it's also like the male bonding thing, right? The extreme sports, the adrenaline rush, right? The hunter-gatherer, the hunter part of the piece, like looking for those thrills that like keep your life exciting, the fight or flight situation, right? So you get a lot of those vibes in there.
Yeah, so as far as parallels go, you obviously have the whole thing where it's a cop, and he's got kind of a boss who's floating over him, and he's helping him out with this this mission or whatever. So
yeah, they're real deep into figuring out, like, they set it up as the police department that he's working for is kind of a bunch of fucking idiots, right? Kind of assholes about the whole situation, everything going on underground. Like, they don't explain too much about it, which I think works well, right? You don't need to know that these guys have been doing this for that long. You don't care. You just know that they're occasionally doing these heists, using these fast cars and doing some fuckery, and they're basically saying the truck drivers are about to go fucking murder some people. Nick's over here laughing really hard at the Fast and Furious because he's looking up
gay porn parody.
He's looking up gay porn parody cover titles. I'm glad he's getting a kick out of that.
The Fast and the Furious does already sound like a porn title, so
I'm glad that someone's.
Yeah, they didn't have to change the name. They added fucking to this one.
I live my life one fuck at a time, 1 inch at a time.
Ooh, and there's this girls.
No one cares if you win by an inch or 2 inches.
Yeah. Classic line.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of like little cheesy lines that Vin Diesel says. Nick would do a good Vin Diesel cosplay, so like a short Vin Diesel.
How tall is he?
Taller than you are, Pipsqueak. Sorry, that was mean.
You're like perfect height for undoing a belt buckle with your teeth.
I don't think it really looks it.
You didn't get to choose your gene pool. That's fine. I understand.
No, so yeah, like he has that concept. He has the thing where he's in with a girl before he's in with the people. That's there too. He's falling in love with a girl who's in with the tribe. Then she gets pissed at him later when she finds out he's a cop. The only thing, this does veer off in the end and does its own thing, which
works.
I respect a lot for doing. You obviously don't want to replicate the whole fucking movie, and then it works. Like you said, it works pretty well. It's a pretty decent movie.
Yeah, and the car racing scenes are entertaining too, right? Because like, how do you create something, right? So the surfing thing's been done, and it's a lot easier to have believable characters driving cars because you can tell they're clearly not racing those cars.
Oh yeah, and some of those sequences are really cheesy. Like,
but you can,
Ja Rule in that movie is fucking awful. They should not have given him a role. He's a terrible actor and a terrible. That was just bad.
It's just a sign of the times, though, right? Someone's like, hey, let's throw somebody in there, right? Get the hype man. And he's probably really good on set for the crowds and shit, getting people hyped up for that and all that. You know, like, you're there for long hours doing that shit for prep and everything else. So you have somebody out there to come do some hype and shit. I'm sure that just helps out in the
Who is it? Ludacris that's in the second one?
Yeah, I think
and then he's in the rest of them. He's great.
Yeah, like, I thought he did fine.
I'm not saying a rapper can't come in a movie and act, but goddamn, not Ja Rule. No. He's like, hey, I'm Ja Rule in the movie. What's up, everybody? He's like Bobcat Goldthwait, not Ja Rule.
He's like, I'm the rapper versus Bobcat Goldthwait. We're over the top, man. And you're like, okay.
You would have bet some money for this car race. I think I'm going to win it. Yeah, so that's our Bobcat Goldthwait impressions. That's what Ja Rule sounds like in this movie, though. But yeah, they don't, like, they always, these movies get interesting and bizarre as they go on, but this one has, like, the classic street race vibe with a little bit of the criminal vibe going on. So it goes back and forth, and it's more of a mystery to you. You don't know the whole movie whether Dominic and his crew are the villains until that last minute when they go to rob the fucking truck, and then you see it happen and it all go down.
Yeah, it's basically like the Point Break thing, where like they think that these guys are up to something, but they don't know until they see them. It's
another
going
parallel,
down.
Exactly. Yeah,
and it works well for that, right? Because you're like, you don't know what to make of these characters. You're like, he's trying to get in there to get into the underground scene and get that respect, and then it's interesting that way. But I will say that I love when Ja Rule gets cock-blocked after he loses that race.
Oh yeah.
She fucking runs off. That chick that's like hyping him up before the race, like just fucking insults him and walks off. And you're like, Jesus, that was fucking brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's funny stuff.
Oh, you can have any beer you want as long as it's Corona. That's another thing.
Oh yeah, that's fucking.
That was amazing. Alec was like, remember when I was talking shit on you the other day for this? He's like, well, here's your chance to see what I was talking about.
So there is a whole thing about the character of Vince. Vince is the guy that wears the mesh tank top around, and he keeps calling Paul Walker's character a fag. He does it at least twice. But I think this is repressed homosexual vibes within Vince himself, because he is, again, wearing a mesh tank top around, calling other people fag. What else did I write down that he does? Oh, yeah, he has leather pants on at one point, too.
Yeah, and he's really, like, territorial with Vin Diesel's character. He gets really fucking pissed when he takes that kind of secondary role in there, right? So you can kind of see those vibes into it, right? And at the time, they didn't play that up as much as they would today.
And he also says something about putting Paul Walker on a dress at some point. So it's just like, yeah, Vince is one of those, like, self-hating homosexuals, and I don't think it's even intentional in the writing. But he's wearing
it just comes off across that. Another thing to me that cracks me up is like, as a person myself, and I don't give a fuck what you like, but I don't fucking like wearing jewelry of any kind at all. I just don't care for it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, we say this as you're wearing a watch, but
an Apple Watch first.
I was about to say that's my limit. Is like I'll pretty much wear a watch or something, but
yeah,
it's just like.
That's just my personal preference. Like, I just don't like any of that shit cluttering me up. But, like, this movie is filled with man jewelry.
It would be more of, like, a decorating myself, but not, like, a daily thing. Like, if I was going to an event or things, I mean, shit, I've worn a dress on stage. I don't give a fuck, man. You know what I mean? Like,
and not to say that I don't give a shit about accessories, because if you see the Ghostbusters cosplay, I'll fucking put everything known to God on that fucking belt as long as it's in one of those movies.
Right.
Like, the joke of that is, like, how fucking heavy can you make yourself weigh? Can you double your body weight by putting on your Ghostbusters cosplay? But it's just not for me, which, I mean, I get it, right? But, I mean, I would rather invest stuff in things that I can enjoy here, when some people would rather show off the flashiness, right? Which it makes sense, too, because you're showing off flashy, fast cars. You want to look flashy all the time, right? I get that whole thing. But for me, I just took note of that because for someone that doesn't wear jewelry, when I saw, like, everyone wearing, like, ungodly, gaudy amounts of jewelry, you're like, what the fuck?
So you remember the scene where Vin Diesel beat the shit out of that guy at the literally named Race Wars? Which sounds like, these days, like, oh, God, don't name it that, you fucking idiots.
Yeah, that's so out of place for the modern times. Like, watching that in 2020, you're like, oh, God. Like, is this Trump?
Especially
when
Trump
backing this race
here? The scene for Race Wars has two Asian guys fighting whatever the fuck Vin Diesel is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on there. But, like, also one of those guys is
I think Vin Diesel
from Drag Me to Hell.
Mixed white and black.
That's what I was about to say. I'm sure he's
not educated on that, so I'm not going to talk to. Yeah,
I just don't know what. So that's why I'm saying I don't know what he is. But it's called Race Wars, and then you literally have people of different race fist fighting on the ground, and Vin Diesel broke the stuntman's nose in that scene.
So the other thing in this movie that reminded me of Point Break specifically is when they have the biker gangs house police raided, even though they're a very wealthy family. Like, that's the same vibe there. Like, it's and it is botched as well, right? It's another botched, like, whole fucking shooting scene, right? So, like, they kind of throw that in there, and it if you like plot point by plot point, change surfing for street racing and like that, but it's very, very on point for the first two acts of the movie. The final act is where it really starts to change into its own thing, but there's still similarities there in the end.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. That whole ending sequence, whether it's a daytime robbery, all the robberies before that they did were nighttime, but they obviously only did this so they could shoot it during the day, so it would look better on film.
Yeah.
But it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty cool sequence. Vince gets he's hanging off the side of that truck. He's trapped onto it for a while, and that is fucking brutal to watch because you're like, oh, I can imagine your fucking arm doing that and shit, and it looks fucking nasty. And then one of them does a Clark Griswold at one point under the...
Well, they open the movie with a very similar scene like that, too, which is immediately the first thing I thought. I was like, God damn, Clark Griswold's driving this shit.
I don't want to spend the holidays dead. So, that sequence goes down. One of the funniest parts, though, it's funny to me now just because I've seen it so many times, but is when O'Connor, Paul Walker takes out his cell phone and he calls for the ambulance. And he calls himself an officer, and Vin Diesel just looks at him like he's so betrayed, he has that look. And it's funny now because this movie is a little B movie-ish, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you can tell they were rushed in the filmmaking. It was low budget, but that also makes it too. So, it's like, it definitely feels like a lower quality Point Break, but in like a good way. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way and watch this more than Point Break or anything. But it's okay to have a movie. I wouldn't want a movie that comes out with a similar plot that's better than Point Break. That would be weird.
Well, and the thing that's interesting about that point is this the way it's all done, right? Because there's a lot of expensive cars and stuff in here, but it still feels very B movie-ish, right?
Yeah.
Some of the tempo, it doesn't feel like so mainstream. It doesn't feel so over budget like it is now, like for the modern ones. Like, they just get ridiculous with the stunts in some of these newer ones.
Oh yeah, they're supposed to be going to space in this franchise at some point, and now seeing that movie, that first one, imagine that in space. You know what I mean? Like, you can't see that connection yet because you haven't watched the rest of them, but it slowly gets...
Are they, or is that just a joke?
No, I'm pretty sure somebody's made that, like, they're saying, fuck it, we'll do it. And if you think about it, it's probably not going to be cars, obviously. They're going to be some sort of...
Well, if you look at it right now, it's...
Jetsons cars?
It'll probably be like a space heist movie, because that's what they are now, is basically heist movies, or like, they feel like Mission Impossible movies. They are not like they're not Point Break anymore.
Yeah.
They feel like the new Mission Impossible movies. Like, they're just crazy, weird heist movies with those characters, though.
Yeah, and they still got like cars and other stuff in it, right, to make it interesting, right? So,
but it had to progress there, so it's just like interesting seeing that first one.
Well, and it's actually more feasible now for that to happen. Say, like everything's kind of like gotten to that point where they go to space. Leprechaun in space. Jason goes to space.
Well,
right?
I think if they do it, honestly, it will work because they're self-aware and it'll make it hilarious.
It should be hilarious, but you also look at like what Tesla's doing, right? Like, look at all the satellites they're launching into space. Look at Virgin Space, like talking about space travel, right, is a legit thing that's like feasible now. So like you see that there's potential for that to not be as fucking outlandish as like looking back at like Moonraker and shit, right? Where you go start looking back at, or the Space Camp movie, like certain things were like, what the fuck is all this about, right? People going to space that have no business.
Don't talk shit on Space Camp.
I'm not. I'm just saying, like that's the concept is ridiculous,
Made
but
for
that's
TV movies.
But that's what makes it work, right?
I have that on VHS.
Well, fuck yeah, you do. It's a classic. But I think that's what makes this stand out is it's got that good balance of being a Point Break reboot, and it's really not that far removed. It's what, a decade?
Yeah.
Out from the original there? But I don't think they had the intentions of that. But the fucking car chase scene in Point Break is truly amazing. Like that whole sequence, that is done so well. Someone probably saw that and was like, what if we made the whole movie about like that? And I think that's probably like where someone was sitting around and came up with the concept and was basically like, hey,
right.
Because, imitation is the most sincere form of
flattery.
Yeah. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
No, this one's definitely good for what it is. You have to watch it with certain things in mind. I feel like you can't just expect this to be like the same quality as Point Break or anything. You can just expect the same plot points. Yeah. And we did actually watch Too Fast, Too Furious right afterwards, but we'll talk about that another time, as well as the rest of those that Justin has to be exposed to. But we'll probably just do like a Fast and Furious episode where we cover all of those because we don't want to drag that out too long.
No, we'll probably just touch base on those because just the way they build up, I'm sure over time. Like, right, we'll just.
That's what I mean. We'll probably just do like here's the rest of these Fast and the Furious. We'll talk about all the movies in one segment.
Yeah, we'll just talk the things that we like from each of the movies or hated from each of them and go through it all as one. Yeah. But yeah, we did watch the second one immediately following because it was, again, available on demand to me. So I was like, I just threw it on and we watched them both. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking for some mind-numbing, simple action that's easy to follow, those are easy to watch.
And they didn't make it as, like, my initial impressions of it was just like it was car culture bullshit, right? That there wasn't much else to it, but it's actually much more interesting than what I anticipated, right? So
they get deep into like this meaning and this shit of like family, and that your family doesn't have to be your actual family.
Bloodline, yeah, that makes sense.
That's like a whole big thing within this
series.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's
The Fast and the Furious.
The Fast and the Furious, not to be confused with Fast and Furious.
Which is like the fourth one or something? The fifth one? I don't even know. Because they're named all fucking goofy and shit, and it's fucking ridiculous.
Yep. Which means we might have to see the next one in theaters.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to.
Because I think that's still scheduled for April of 2021, assuming shit's back to normal by then.
Yeah.
But that was one of the first movies that when Universal moved that, they said, fuck it, we're going out a whole year. They wanted that opening weekend, because that's usually when they drop those movies, I guess. It's tradition, so...
The Fast and the Furious is part of the Universal Ride Tour.
Yep, I remember that.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I know at least Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez were in it and like filmed some shit for it, but I don't know if anyone else did. I don't remember, to be honest, but they were both in it.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people that were in it from the different movies, so they had a lot of stuff to go through from it. So.
Well, not to mention, Paul Walker died at some point, in a car crash. And when you see the movie that he died right afterwards, or like in the middle of filming or whatever it was, I can't remember now. Like it wasn't in the middle quite, I don't think, but it was near the end or something. And they did some like weird CG shit where they put him in a car driving away. I'll show you the sequence actually, because it's just them driving.
Didn't they use his brother is like a body double basically, and then CGI changed some of that.
So like they're driving next to each other in cars for a while, and then the road forks and they split, and it's playing like this sad fucking pop song. I can't remember. It's so hilarious. It's so fucking B movie. Like this is Fast and Furious. All right.
And I always thought they should just kill him off in the movie.
Right, you'd think so.
You think he is gonna die.
Well, they let him have like a happy ending. But then they never bring him back in the series. They mention him. They're like, should we bring Brian in this in the next movie? And he's like, no, he's busy with his family or something. And you're like...
I thought they said they were thinking about bringing him back in the next one or the next one after that, maybe.
Shit, unless they do it as like a Terminator, like flesh-covered robot, that would be sick. Like if they actually were like...
In space.
Yes. I mean, I'd be down for like that, but if they just want to
alien,
they do something weird, I don't want to watch it unless it's weird on purpose. Like if they CGI'd him and made him, if they do whatever they did with fucking Moff Tarkin, you know, I would only be okay if that's how he was brought to life in the actual movie. Like he was an AI Paul Walker in the movie itself, you know, like or something weird like that. That I could deal with because you need to get weird with it. You can't just
have him be their digital Alpha 5, like where he's just there as a digital
Zordon,
like,
basically, like his fucking floating head.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
So,
well, I think that's going to wrap us up. We were thinking about doing Extreme Ghostbusters episode by episode, but we watched the episode, but none of us really fucking paid attention because we were doing other shit. So, we'll get back to that series eventually here, but we've got a lot more planned for the holidays, so we may pop it in here and there in between now and the new year. So keep your ears open if you enjoy that segment. But we had a little break because obviously the amount of content we're covering for Halloween season, we needed to have space and time for the other stuff. So
true.
All right, kids, we will see you next week.
Nice working with you, Dr. Bankman.
See you on the other side, Ray.
We did that backwards. Yeah, that backwards.
These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests.
Shut this off. Shut these all off.